Our final presentation for the year 2025 is entitled Epic Fail: How a Premature Reading of Homer Harms Students. Please welcome Chloe Critser.
The beloved book bindings lining Trinity's shelves are inscribed with the names of literary giants: Plato, Aristotle, Shakespeare, Dostoevsky. Our immersion in classical literature sets us apart from students across the nation and introduces us to themes of justice, hope, and lasting happiness. But what about books that introduce rape and seduction, violence and murder, false gods and idols? Trinity's 7th grade students' eyes widen as they read about heroes who slit each other's throats and steal each other's wives. Boys snicker and make jokes under their breath. Girls gag at the horrors of war. The book atop students' desk is Homer's Iliad, the original epic poem. Though many call it the classic of classics, it is a graphic retelling of an ancient war. This retelling and its sequel, the Odyssey, formed the basis of Greek children's education. Not only were the texts used as tools to teach literacy, but also to acquaint students with the values of Greek culture. Because of this cultural and educational significance, Homer's work became foundational in classical literature. But a controversy has surrounded the books since the time of Christ. Many early church fathers condemned Homer's writings as evil and idolatrous. Others, however, thought the books profitable for Christians to understand a fallen world. This debate stands at the core of classical Christian education, a system built on the study of ancient classics. So at Trinity, how should we handle Homer's epics? Should we abandon these traditional texts or continue to teach them to young students? Although many classical schools introduce the Iliad and the Odyssey as early as 7th grade as a foundation for their great books education, I argue that Homer's epics should not be read until late high school, because young adolescents are intellectually unready and emotionally immature for these texts. First, the complicated language in the Homeric epics is overly challenging for younger audiences. The poems contain twists and turns of the tongue. An example of this strange language is in Book 2 of the Iliad. Nasty sled the Carians, wild with barbarous tongues, men who held Miletus, Phyrtius' ridges thick with timber, Meander's currents, and Mount Macally's craggy peaks. This sentence would tax most adult readers, much less a 12-year-old student. These stumped students become frustrated and ignore sections that do not make sense, missing important details. Instead of engaging with the text's poetic allegory, students begin to resent literature because they feel inadequate in their abilities. What a tragedy if this happens to students at Trinity. But it gets worse. Not only are 7th graders intellectually unprepared for Homer's epics, they are emotionally unready. Homer's world is ruled by a pagan pantheon that makes unethical and disgusting choices. His heroes follow suit, committing moral atrocities. Even Plato, a Greek himself, criticized Homer's writings for teaching immorality. He thought that reading these stories to children encouraged them to break the law. Within this system of corrupted morality, women are objectified. In the Iliad, it is more than acceptable to win a woman as a war prize. Agamemnon makes this clear when he claims young Briseis for sexual slavery. In the same story, the narrator describes Hera's seduction of Zeus. And in the second epic, Odysseus and Penelope share their marriage bed. While not immoral, this scene is inappropriate for a middle school classroom. Further, descriptions of death and mutilation are far too common on the plains of Troy. In Book 16 of the Iliad, a Greek stabs his spear through a Trojan's brain, splitting his skull. His teeth shatter out, both eyes brim to the lids with a gush of blood, mouth gaping, blowing convulsive sprays of blood. Young adolescents will be distracted by these exhibits of sex and violence and miss the opportunity to glean anything fruitful from the literature. Whereas older students who have developed maturity will gain a sense of literary eloquence from the acclaimed writing. Some people point out that the Homeric texts teach important virtues like duty, love, and courage. Although these three virtues align with Christianity, that is not the case for every virtue taught in the epics. For example, heroes fight to gain kleos, which in Greek means glory or honor. That is their sole goal. Conversely, Jesus teaches in Matthew 6:19 that Christians should store up heavenly treasures, not earthly ones like vainglory. On the surface, these ideas are in contention with each other. But when reading with more experience, this may not be true. Some scholars say that Homer is critiquing the Greek mindset in respect to kleos, not condoning it. Is Homer actually warning us of the danger and destruction that comes with seeking earthly treasure? The problem, however, is that young students lack discernment and are unable to distinguish between sections of the text that are literal versus allegorical. Next, many in classical education claim that students must read Homer's epics early in the curriculum to allow for proper literary sequence and to keep in line with tradition. While I concede that the Iliad and Odyssey are important in the classical canon, they are lost when introduced too soon. Foreknowledge is required to understand the epics, and it is essential for a reader to be aware of the Greek mindset and to understand the Greek gods before cracking the cover of the Iliad. Although it is the first of its genre, the Iliad is not the only way to grasp the epic form. There are other, more appropriate epics that can be introduced first, including the Divine Comedy or Paradise Lost, both of which are written from a Christian perspective. For all of these reasons, it is logical to subtract the epics from logic school. Undoubtedly, a classical student should read Homer's epics. When a mature Christian reads a pagan text, she comprehends history and philosophy, which bolster Christian theology and moral thought. And though the Iliad and Odyssey are wildly out of range of a 7th grader's reading level, they fall neatly into the range of an 11th or 12th grade reader. The epic should be introduced to these students who are intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually mature. My peers and I represent the fruit of a classical Christian education. We are committed to the search for truth and are unafraid to articulate it to others. Much of this formation has come from the books we read. Words have extraordinary power to create and uplift, but also the power to destroy worlds. Therefore, it is vital that teachers introduce literature at the proper time. The Homeric epics are a Trojan horse that we allow to infiltrate students' hearts prematurely. Let us not be burned down like the walls of unsuspecting Troy, but equipped to spar against the dangers that lie hidden inside the Trojan horse. Thank you.